I'm in Guildford. I'm just doing the setup now. I've done a little bit of chalking. Thanks for the likes. Thumbs up. I mean, appreciate it. This is the high street. Goes up a little higher. I've taken a little walk up there. And it goes down. And there's other areas, but this has quite a good footfall. And it has this location here that I can put this barrier. This barrier will work perfectly for the banners, assuming the wind doesn't get up. So I'm going to set that up. Put the mic on. Camera says I'm live on YouTube, so people can see that straight away when they come upon me. If they come upon me. Banners here. Look at the bag.
Yesterday.
Oh yeah? Must be the next quaker then.
Let's see if we can put this here.
I actually think it's really cool.
So I hope you guys are good. And yeah, all is well in your world, you know. Much as can be, given what we know,
Square before.
given our uncertainty perhaps of the future.
Yes. But I listened to those fucking long.
Right.
But it was interesting. Come here for Richard stuff.
It's going to take me a few minutes, so you'll have to bear with me. Fast forward if you're watching us later on.
You didn't see it, so it didn't happen.
I'm hoping to be here 4 or 5 hours. I actually got 4 hours apart, so that's my kind of limit.
I can only share it if I want to.
Did I only seen what? What? By Sainsbury's? Yeah. Alright, I'll see you there. Have fun.
things where I'll never be able to win the argument until it's too late. In other words,
just fancy something savoury.
Yeah. Got a few more to go. Guildford's well, it's a city really. It's got a cathedral, a lot of old world buildings, lots of what looks like mud flood to us, and I actually came here the other day. I did some chalking down at the train station, and just before the busy sort of rush hour, so about 7:30 or something like that in the morning, and yeah, I did quite a bit actually, all around the perimeter of the station. And I was sitting in my car. My car was parked right near the front of the station, and I was just kind of contemplating doing a little bit more. I pick up the piece of chalk and I go to open the door, and as I do that, two policy orificers come rushing to the front door of the station. It was a funny moment, I have to say. A bit Keystone Cops like, but I just watched them for a minute and thought, you know what, I saw them looking at some of my art. I'll leave them to it.
Okay, yeah.
ഫോൺ ചെയ്ത് നേരം മതിയായിരുന്നു വെള്ളം പിടിച്ച്
No, it's just BS. Strawberry was stupid.
So what he's saying?
Saying that it's flags.
I was going to put my
Seems less self-conscious. I don't believe in karma. I don't believe in karma. That's experience with your brain.
Well, exactly. I mean, in our brains,
Yeah, it's obviously like consequently tell that your brain sees something different. So like if you touch it, it's hot. It's hot, your brain just knows, yeah, where like, how do you know it's actually hot? How do you know it's hot?
They want a lot of people about. Plus the sun one now, was it? You know, the one sun one.
that's something that they do. You know, it's fun you went there. They didn't bother taking a photograph at first, but the first 5 minutes, only on the second and final mission, they were gold, driving out in the field, but and all of that, they were so rewarding, they got time to give us just 10 minutes of support. There's Africa, and there's Asia coming into view, and it's still going to China. They never bothered to do that. Never would. So you got to respect them if they would really like.
I respect the opinion, but that's the thing. I can't say I would say the majority of people are like, oh, that was a good because that's what everyone's telling you. Exactly.
When you're 5, 6 years old and you're ridiculed for something, but I can't feel that it's stimulus. Or I can't measure what is serving. I think that water is better. Water, whenever we're in the bar or in the lake swimming pool, it's always level. But you tell me after 10 miles where I can't swim, it's going to start curving and the ship's going to go downhill and then it's going to come back up. And then we're going to break the system off thermodynamics and pull something out of this container. Because that's the laws that you have in the broken station.
What about red shape? So if you must expand, that's great because that's the top thermodynamics, right? So you're doing that.
Yeah, well, I mean, the assumption or the assertion that there is not something so we see this racing and it's explained by stop things moving away. That's not really necessarily how this system electromagnetic.
There's Nero's.
Our universe is like a giant electromagnetic. It's level, it's a flat.
Don't mind going.
With the background radiation experiments that they do, Earth is always at the center. Earth is always at the center. So maybe that place that we're in is a center of an electromagnetic field. And then at night what we see when we see the stars, we see electromagnetic discharges in the environment. Because if you've seen the star in the giant scale, if you've seen the star in the giant scale, you know that they can fire electricity and get above it go into the light. What a star in the giant scale. It's somewhere in the message. You can sound like light. So what we think the stars might be is a sonar unit moving across the sky. But without the stars have stayed in the same place all this time. And if you live in a big band that's constantly expanding, then you should have some degree of things moving outside of, crossing lines. They move like the zodiac sign. 12 zodiac signs have been seen to thousands of reports. Never move. It disappears and they all try to move millions of miles away.
Can't just prove any
So I'm offering you, well,
but like, personally, I can't say that I agree. I have to like that.
so I'm not asking you to believe it, I'm asking you to bring it to open mind.
Yeah, I have no time, and I examine that this could be a possibility, very realistic, but there is no way of testing it, so therefore you cannot say that itself that this is true or it's false. It's kind of like a philosophy, it's not really science, it's not philosophy.
So if you can philosophically
What, in thousands of millions of years, before they can be else?
Well, you only have to go back to everybody that we live inside and before the heliocentric model, it was the Earth model was for about 1,000 years and 80. So that's the place where Earth is in the center, the sun is going around. But if you go back to the Sumerians and the Mayans and the Egyptians and so on, they also lived inside of a closed system. And it's only the modern science that demands that, no, you must believe that these not only that, you're not that important. Because you're just one of billions and billions of stars, and there's more life out there, and all of that stuff has got the meaning to each of us individuals. Because we are created on purpose. And this place is created for you to come and have an opportunity. But now your science has to move the meaning. It's like the internet. You're not that important. You're not that important. Well, I thought people in acid instantly people believe in what NASA is telling because they often see it. They offer them every sort of people who spend a lot of time in the when they're meant to be on the internet. And I've seen some footage of harnesses where they're wearing harnesses.
So that's not real.
That's real. That's real. That's real. And we can break a bit of it down. Even the moon, I'll tell you, this is the science behind into the man-made vacuum cleaner. But they'll put them in the vacuum cleaner from outer space many times stronger than we can clean. It's like when you look at the suit, it's the same suit they wear in the swimming pool, which is pushing the water, is now pushing in all directions. Space, which is pulling in every direction. They've never, so when they do the moon, sometimes they throw the space rings on the right here, bubbles. Sometimes in 2014, NASA actually went around
Oh, why did they do that for? What do you want to?
because the same way they do but originally people were not fighting the body or the devil or whatever.
So all this they try to brainwash us not believing in God.
Not believing in God, but also not believing that we are the spark of God. Actually, the most important thing is that God created us. You're a Christian believe they came from monkeys and then when we look at the and all of that stuff, which is a mainstream science. So, but if it's a flat Earth with obviously the mountains and so on, but the sea is flat and it's enclosed, that means it was designed. And if it was designed, it was designed by somebody connected to us. Because we're the only consciousness.
Didn't get that, you'll be kicking yourself off.
Like in the tiny piece of an orange, to open orange up and you find one cell of the orange. And its own skin. Separate from the whole orange, but actually it is orange. It is white. I think we are that. I think we are the expression of orange.
Right. Trying to correct whatever we're going to rock at the global surface.
What do you
The
want?
Earth is a round, we're actually live on the flat surface, and the breeds live on the
And many pilots have said that what we're supposed to do a roof or a dome, I think that there might be a dome at the extremities of our world. And that we can't, we're pitching, some people say there's more land. I can't prove that. So there's an old Chinese map that emerged from the year 1000 something. It was found in Montana. And it has 30.
I left my cool one at
There's only 5 we know about. But outside of that there are more. And if you make a globe, then sailors will sail around. If you said, this is it, this is all you got, it's just town, Guildford, yeah, and put a magnet in the middle, people can go east and west around the magnetic north all the time. Can you hear me talking? You triggered. I'm busy talking.
You carry on, mate. You carry on. You're weird.
Put a magnet in the center of this. You can go east and west around the town all the time, and that's what they do. They put you inside this place where there's very small amount of continents. We don't travel out because we don't realize there might be more continents outside. There might be more.
So you say we're being open-minded. Okay. Want to believe what you were saying. What are we doing? What should we do?
I'll give you a flyer, but if you go to YouTube and say flat Earth, all it gives you is this information about us thinking we live on a plate inside the vacuum of space. When we don't think so. All of the lights are inside of our system. So there is, I'll give you my website, you can go and look up some more information.
Yeah, we're going to have a look. Open mind.
Open mind.
Exactly.
Mine's like a parakeet.
Exactly. It doesn't do anything.
It won't, no harm. I say that God is within you. Right. God is within you.
Yeah, we're going to have a look. Open mind, as you said.
Oh my God.
You never know what's outside. You always believe in what people tell you. That's what being brought up. But that's the same time for open mind.
All the best.
Do чого ні?
Oh, it's flat.
Yes, brother.
Well, can you prove it today? Here's what I used to believe it was a globe. When you're trying to measure the curvature that they say is there, you know, when a ship's going over there. Can't measure it. No, it's an optical illusion. It's an optical effect that the ship goes over 3 months.
Okay.
So when we take a powerful camera and we zoom in on that ship,
Have you been to the edge?
Oh, yeah, go on. That's what you're just telling me every second.
No, I'm sorry.
It says exactly the same thing. Why do you think we all think that? Because when we were 6 years old, we were taught that there's an edge and you'd fall off it. When no one who studies flat Earth claims any kind of edge that we could go to. And there's the Antarctic Treaty, which stops all of us from going there. And most people don't know that. In the 6 years parallel south, no one can travel there since 1957. This is the stuff that you want to be taught about. Sorry?
Maybe that.
Maybe, yeah, but on on a controlled mission, you can go, and if we're talking about hostile terrain where there's no security, and if you've got landed there, you could if you go 20 miles. You know, and there's a guy who ran off fines, you might have heard of him, Sir Ranulph Fines, he's very, now I met his crew, I met his crew on the ship that was taking, South African icebreaker, that was taking him to do this longest walk where he was going to walk across a peninsula, across 180 degrees. No one's ever gone 180 degrees before on the other side, plane, ship, walk, whatever, no one. But he's going to do this mission to go just on the peninsula. Sir Ranulph Fines, his crew told me it took him 5 years to get the mission. 5 years to get the mission.
Who's good at stuff?
A guy, a Dutch guy, that went to try and sail it, and the military turned him back. It's all on that.
Ralph Fiennes was the only man to get thrown out the SAS.
Really? Well, he went on and proved them like he's a pretty tough bastard. But he never actually did that mission. And when I spoke to his, because I met the wife of his, I met his crew, and I was in email contact with the wife of the guy who was his sort of second-hand man, and she was so sheepish afterwards. This is a little bit before I found the flat Earth. Now, coming back to the edge, we don't know if there is an edge, but we do know one thing for sure in science: water must be contained. Water must be contained. Water has to be contained. If the water, if you break the glass, the water's going to flow down this hill, and it's going to pool somewhere. And then if that pool fills up, it will flow down until eventually it gets to the sea. That's true for whether you're in the Mendips going west or the Mendips coming east to this side of the country. And guess what? It's 350 meters high, the Mendips, and you only have to travel when you're going over to Wales or whatever, 350 meters down. Same if you're coming east coast, meaning that the sea level around England, tidal variation aside, is the same. It's the same sea level. And now, if I made that Africa and not England, and I had the same experience, I've gone up to Kilimanjaro and come down to the west coast or whatever, doesn't matter how far I've travelled, my height change is exactly the same from crossing that continent. So
Why do they tell us it's engraved?
There's a lot of reasons why. But there's some people say it's because they're hiding the land. Some people say and some people say that. I do.
They get it from different models, I think.
Models? No. You've got morals born in, unless your parents keep the shit out. But you get morals, yeah. But morality is on a man. You can take a puppy and mess with that puppy so that no one ever wants to play with it. Yes? But you can also treat that puppy well and he gets best off. And the same is true with man. Is that you fuck with him in the first 7 years of his life, you can fuck with him forever. And that's what they do, is they teach you when you're small, you're on the striking ball, you're upside down, you're spinning, before you can critically think about how does that really work? And then they say, like a pizza. Because I got a round table now. That makes sense.
Every planet's round there.
No. Well, you see, now when we look at the planets, we're given CGI by NASA. But when you take your own powerful telescope, or a powerful camera, you see a light, which is round.
The human eye can only see 30 miles in one line. Because it's the curvature of the Earth. You can only see 30 miles.
All right. Well, what if I told you that the Americans had a weapon called the railgun? Have you heard of the railgun?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Mark 15, ship to ship, 100 miles. What curvature?
Following something, you always take advantage of the drop of the distance.
Okay, guys, I went to war in a country called Angola in 1987. My life depended on me knowing exactly what forces were happening on. I was shooting at 90 millimeter. Let me finish. I wrote a book about it and gave a copy to Prince Harry. I will tell you for 2 days about the biggest tank battles in Africa. Now, I had to shoot a cannon ranges of a mile all the time. That was what I was the crew commander, but my gunner had to do that. Now, what did I need to make allowance for? I had to make allowance for the range, and I had to make allowance for wind. I didn't have to make allowance for curvature, nor Coriolis, which is what a lot of globe believers get into. They say there's a Coriolis force, which is why the water's going down.
How come the human eye can only see 30 miles, even if you're high up? You only see 30 miles.
I would contend that because when I was in the Namib desert, in the Kalahari desert, doing my national service, because it was so dry, we could see 100 kilometers in the dry over distance because it's so dry. But if there's more moisture in the air, we know that our vision is reduced. I accept that our vision is limited. Human vision is limited, but they use that limited vision to say that's the ship going away. But it's actually, let me finish. It's the ship is vanishing. You know how a train comes towards you at the station and gets larger progressively? Well, there's a compression off into the distance, and that compression is happening this way as well. And so we lose the bottom of the ship because we're so low to the image. But I've done the same thing in the Mediterranean, where I've seen ships go away at the harbour, jumped into a plane, bang, an hour later those planes are all visible to me, plus another 100, on what looks like a level body of water.
So if you're on a ship in the Mediterranean, how do you navigate?
Celestial navigation, like we've always done, and the people that originally did that believed they lived on a flat surface with the stars moving around.
I've seen Columbus's copy of in Granada University, there's a copy of Columbus who travelled to Marco Polo.
Yeah.
But it's taken all the, you see in Spanish all the notes he took from the Chinese, right? So they didn't think the world was, they already knew it was round, yeah?
Round, yeah.
The Chinese knew that, the Arabs knew that.
No, all ancient cultures believe that it was a globe. But I can give you guys more. Where's the formula for curvature? Did you ever get taught that?
Into a jet, a typhoon jet, and the sun goes down, you fly and get to the typhoon jet, and you travel more than 650 miles an hour, you will stay with the sun, and you'll continuously see the sun. You continuously see the sun until that jet runs out of fuel.
Yeah, I was listening to an F-14 fighter pilot the other day who's been a flat earther for some years talk about the things that he can show how the earth is definitely not flat. A friend of mine is a commercial pilot for an Australian airline. He's a flat earther. There's plenty of people in pilots who aren't flat earthers have been caught saying, yeah, we don't make any allowance for curvature. We fly flat and level. So I took a Spirit level in 2016 onto a flight to see what was happening. And you find that the nose is 1.5 degrees up the whole way through the cruising phase. And the moment it wants to settle, i.e. get closer to the earth, you feel it and he drops it to 0.5 degrees and boom, you start to go down again.
See how fast the sun goes down on the equator? You're standing near the equator, the sun goes down, it's got lead.
Yeah, we got.
All right, guys.
Have a good
nice
day,
touring
mate.
you. I'm just filming for my YouTube channel.
The sun goes down and like you've got lead attached to it, yeah?
The sun?
If you're on the equator
Yeah.
and the sun goes down,
Yeah.
it goes down like it's got lead attached. It goes straight down within 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's
you can watch it.
Yeah, I get that observation.
That's the curve.
Yeah, I get that observation. But
The other thing is, if you've got a mobile, if you want to phone South Africa, for instance,
Yes.
right? You get on the mobile phone. How is that call getting through?
undersea cables.
Undersea cables.
Absolutely. You know.
So there's no such thing as satellite.
No. Well, there's satelloons, which are balloons that can hold satellites in the sky. But the data industry admit that 99% of all data traffic is undersea cable. In South Africa, just 10 years ago, got their undersea cables, and all of a sudden, people got fast broadband. Up until then, it was a super slow place. They're way behind because they don't have the
They're
undersea
even
cables.
more way beyond now. They haven't even got the fucking power.
They haven't got power, but you know what? But we see this as controlled demolition. That there's nothing that's not connected. There's no country in the world that's not controlled. I was in South Africa for a year in 2021, and I was telling the Africans there, listen, we are all being, the whites, the blacks, and everyone is being treated exactly the same. Why is a black government locking down 60 million people when they have none of this flu stuff going around? Let me tell you, it's all controlled and all being. So to say Columbus told us this, let me tell you that they gave us religion 1,000 or 2,000 years ago, and that was contrived to
I'm
control.
not saying from Columbus.
That
I'm
was
saying
controlled.
he's copying Marco Polo. Because Marco Polo wrote the Travels of Marco
Yeah,
Polo in
yeah,
the
yeah,
1300s.
Yeah.
Columbus has a copy, which is in the University of Granada, with all his notes in there about how to navigate and how the Chinese.
Okay. Yeah, the
No, the
Chinese are
world
long
was flat,
before.
yeah.
The Chinese also thought it was a flag. Now, let me tell you that I used to believe all of this stuff, but now we've found buildings and structures in America that are built exactly like European structures.
Yeah,
At
well,
a time
there's much
before,
more contact going on than people think there was.
exactly. So this idea that we weren't going to find America, we were going to fly off the edge or get to India or whatever, that's bullshit, bro.
You ever been across the Pacific?
Not by ship, but I've.
With a plane?
No, I have not. No, I have not.
See, when you see a map, like you see a map of the Pacific, like a flat map of
This is the old flying reefs, by the way. On it.
the Pacific is fucking much wider. Look, see. People, Pacific's like, it costs you, take you 4 or 5 hours to cross the Atlantic, depending where you're going.
Right.
Pacific is 16 hours.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
goes round and round and round and round and round and goes for miles.
So we found shipping logs of captains who were sailing between South Africa and the Cape of South America. And they were 10 days, typically 10 days behind schedule, and that was causing them a lot of problems. So we think that the distances might be further than the globe allows. They admit that
I know
no
the
globe
maps.
is
I know the map.
right.
I know the map is wrong because all the maps for convenience always never show
For
the
convenience,
Pacific.
yeah, they say, yeah, but Russia's oversized.
But
and so
once
on.
you fly over the Pacific, then you see that the world isn't flat because it's like so many hours to go around it. And you start in California and you come out in Japan.
Yeah. Well, actually, a lot of the flight routes that we look at a lot of the flight routes where sometimes they'll fly you to Abu Dhabi and it makes no sense on a globe. You'd be like, that's a big dog's leg, and we always use the excuse, oh, it's not economically viable. But when you plot that onto this flat map, you go, wow, that's almost a straight line. It's the same as how they fly South Africans to get to Australia. They'll fly them to the northern hemisphere. They fly them to the northern hemisphere rather than just going, from. Well, I mean, on this map you can see why they'll throw them. That's Abu Dhabi there, and then on to Australia.
They fly to Singapore.
But as a globe,
they fly to Singapore, and then the reason for that is because people. Another one, maps never do justice to the size of Australia. Which Australia?
No, you'd think in this day and
People
age,
don't know the size of Australia.
So if we have satellites that can map these things perfectly, they should be able to digitally reproduce a perfect 1/1,000,000th size copy of the globe. But they can't. So we have to ask questions. Why is that? Is it possible that's because they're fudging it and there's a bunch of things that they have to stretch and shorten in order to make it work on a globe?
Two things. Originally it was the Eurocentric idea.
Again, what I've also been learned to say is the excuse.
And then it was also they just got used. Have
you ever looked into electromagnetics? Have you looked into electromagnetics? Because if you look into electromagnetics, which is mainstream science and a bit of quantum, you'll realize it's very possible that this is a zone of accretion between two magnetic poles within which there is an electrical current. And that works. There's experiments called...
what if I said to you, what if there's multiple dimensions?
It's possible.
And one dimension in the Earth is round, and another dimension in the Earth is flat.
But you can't break the laws of physics. Thermodynamics demands that if you want a pressure system, you have to contain it. Not only that, water always runs down. You cannot get the Nile River to run up the side of a globe. You cannot get people to walk upside down. You cannot. It just doesn't work in reality. And as I say to people, every fruit or everything in nature has a skin to protect it, except this globe.
Yeah, we got the moon running around like crazy.
That's not a skin.
Causing a magnetic force,
Yeah. That's magical stuff, my friend. That's all. You cannot prove that. You can say those words, you've been fed those ideas perhaps, but you cannot prove it.
Oh, look at the moon. It comes up and it goes over. And
You're right.
The tide comes in, the tide goes out.
I agree with you there too.
The old werewolf figures come up,
but you
notice the period starts.
But you notice that the Great Lakes, American Great Lakes, huge seas, they have no tide.
The Mediterranean has no tide.
It has no tide. No. So where's the moon?
It's because it's a lake, basically. It's not an ocean.
So
the oceans and lakes are very, very different things.
Well, I would say that it's possible that there is something connected to the way that the moon is and how it's having an effect because it's salt water. It seems that not so much although having said that, the Mediterranean, it doesn't have much tide.
Have you ever got with air hostess?
Have I? I have, yeah. And I've flown.
Or to be politically correct, a female pilot. A female one I'm talking about. Their periods go to pieces where they start doing long haul flights, crossways, because basically their body's on a certain time, almost like a female's got a GPS in her, and it goes to pieces. If they fly from San Francisco to Hong Kong and then back again, their body goes haywire.
Totally. Yeah? But you see, if you're an electromagnetic being inside an electromagnetic system that's turning, then when you go to different places, you're a tourist. Tourist takes to a different place, and that energy is flowing in a different way, which is why we have this jet lag and our body doesn't work right. And of course, you're outside of the circadian rhythm if you're working all night. And there's a whole load of factors. But I think we're electromagnetic beings, and in an electromagnetic system, it's possible for there to be sort of electromagnetic tides invisible to us.
Yeah.
But we can't see them. And as they come in, they cause things like CV19. But that these things can have an effect on people. Yes.
Interesting,
so
anyway.
It's electromagnetic.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to think a bit different.
Yeah. Good luck, brother. I need to put some more chalk down. Unfortunately, we're on a pebble stone here. Brick. Thanks for stopping by. I need some water. It's not like the best setting, but it's so far unmolested. I think a little bit of chalk is required. Hey guys, take some info. Take some info. Have a look at my flyer. Take a picture. Think about it. You know, you can't prove that you live on a globe.
Cool.
You need a higher authority to tell you that.
Good luck.
Thank you. This will work.
Are there any gatherings in Guildford?
Aye. Gatherings for flat earthers.
Well, generally.
I have to say I'm new to town. I'm just passing through, so I can't answer that question effectively. But have you ever looked into this idea that I've been lied to about where we live? You know that?
Are there stuff you could do with people?
I can give you my flyer.
Yeah, I saw there's a guy I went to the Isle of Mull in Scotland
Oh yeah.
who had his own stuff too, but he had a van with him.
Ha! Good for him.
Yeah. but
When was that?
Some years back.
Yeah.
But
A
you
big
know,
guy, Scottish guy.
Yeah, I don't know if he was Scottish. I think so. I don't know. But
I know a few there. Yeah.
nice.
Yeah,
Are there
but-
little events and stuff?
We do have events, and I'm hoping to organise an event later this year. But whether it'll be in England or not is to see, maybe. But we do occasionally have events. It's just that we're not very co-joined. Like we're very much individuals doing their own thing a lot
Yeah.
of the time. You know?
Because this is just, I mean, this is an aspect of a greater whole of
And
stuff to look
yeah,
into.
this is the gateway truth for me. You know, if you can take your journey through this gateway and then do the other work on yourself and understanding why the world is like it is, then it helps. You know, once you have this, because it helped me to understand why the world is like it is, and not to take it so personally. You know, that it's a game designed to test you.
It's good to know that some people are alive
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
It's very rare. Thank you. Thank you.
Cool. I just want to put a bit more chalk down. Yeah. How do I?
Ring the doorbell, but like.
Take a flyer.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome. Shocking. You want a flyer, man?
No.
Ma'am? You can take a flyer version of the same.
Thank you.
Cheers, thank you.
Have you looked into electromagnetics before? I would really recommend that. A little bit of quantum physics perhaps, but electromagnetics is the answer to what our world really is. This whole idea of it being a stone, you know, it's whizzing around other stones and other gas giants and so on. No, it's all light, frequency, vibration. Tesla said the same, Nikola Tesla said the same. If you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of sound frequency and vibration.
Okay.
And when we study what the stars might be, we see what seems to be sonoluminescence, not rocks and gas floating up there. When we study the nature of how things interact, like plants grow and how animals fly or birds fly, you know, we think that there's an electromagnetic current that they're following rather than some other mystical thing. So there's some research called the primer fields experiments. It was done initially by a guy called David LaPointe in America in 2008, and that is peer-reviewed science where they can take two magnetic poles, opposing magnetic poles, fire a powerful current into a chamber that's got a gas in it, and they can get to spark up in the middle of it like an accretion layer, like an accretion disk, or creation. Accretion is a creation disk. And so we think that we're between two poles, a hot and a cold, red and a blue, and in that between that is this middle green Earth. And that's the center. And not only this, is that you are a micro of that macrocosm. So you are exactly the same. You are a little torus, a little apple, a little energy system with your own chakras. And your middle chakra is your heart chakra, the green one, which is heart is anagram for Earth, of course. So we think that Earth, heart, this is the center of you, this is the center of the known universe, and you are in the center of the known universe. What modern science and religion would prefer you to think is that you're not significant, you're not that important. But I think that we all are the essence of God, the creator, or whatever. There's no one special. We're all coming to the same essence. If you cut an orange open, every one of those little cells inside of the orange are all perfect orange. You can't choose one over the other. One might be a little larger or smaller, but they're all orange. And I think we are all God expressing itself in this way where we can have a physical, dualistic, hot and cold experience. And maybe it's a soul journey, and that soul journey is tempted or usurped so that you don't find your own true path.
Have you got a YouTube, you said?
My YouTube channel is on this flyer, actually, Trinity 4. I have to start again. YouTube don't like everything I talk about, so I have to start
We've seen
again.
the censorship.
Yeah, so, and it's been very real in the 5 years I've been talking on this.
Yeah.
But I only came to Flat Earth. Flat Earth is like a gateway for me. It's a gateway truth. I try and get people's attention with Flat Earth because it really stops them and smacks them in the jaw and says, well, you know, they get angry or they might think about it. But eventually, hopefully, they start the journey and that they don't get stuck at Flat Earth, because Flat Earth is just the gateway to, well, what are we? What is this place? Who are we? What's going on here? What's the government for? What is the setup all about? You know, and how do I, having that knowledge, how do I play my hand, given that knowledge? You know? Yeah. So that's interesting stuff. You know, the way that the world works is the way that the world works. It's just people have interpreted it, well, this works because of this gravity, this works because of relativity, this works because of this evolution, and so on. But I don't know, what if it's all been designed, you know, as an electromagnetic system that's self-cleaning? So it takes away a lot of the stuff that they try and punish us with, like climate change and things like that. You know? And you're the bad, you're the... And not only you're the bad one, but your neighbour, you know, you're looking over your neighbour, you're the bad one. Russia's the bad one, this one's the bad one.
Yeah, they're not the bad ones, we are.
Yeah, and we're constantly hating on God, essentially. Because when I hate on you, I hate on God. You know, and so that's how we should love one another and all that, you know, stuff, and be good to one another. And if we understood that this world was created, not just some random lucky strike, evolution and Big Bang, we would maybe treat each other better that way. And we would maybe not give away our authority to the government and say, hey, we are our own authority. Yeah. Primary authority here is you, and I shouldn't be able to interfere with your world unless you consent to it, unless you agree, oh yeah, I'll go.
Well, we questioned a lot of stuff over COVID, like we didn't believe any of that.
Good.
I believe in God.
Yeah. Good. Well, I mean, for me, it became a knowing. I was pretty atheistic by my mid-40s, and I had an experience 8 years ago with ayahuasca, DMT. And it was just an 8-minute experience, and in that time I found God. And I know that we are gods. We have a higher self, and that higher self is somehow connected to whatever God is. And it's all love. And you know, when you go back from this experience, you don't die, you just return to the thing that you come from, the higher self that you come from. And that higher self is very conscious, and it's like an iCloud. It's taking all of the experience that you're having now and banking it. I saw this in the DMT experience. And the first words I said was truth, there's a God after that experience.
Do you feel like you go back to the Creator whatever you do, or do you need redemption?
Yes. I think that you do. I don't think
Salvation.
I'm not saying that there isn't any soul price to pay, you know. So if you choose to do, because we know on our hearts what is right and wrong. We don't need anyone else to teach us that. We might, if we've been, like you take a puppy and you hurt it when it's young, then it's going to affect the puppy's adult behavior, right? So we know we've been hurt. All of us have been traumatized on purpose. And so that's of course, gonna affect things that people do. Some people are gonna choose wrong. Some people are hungry and they're gonna steal because they're hungry. We've been put in this lack system that's created behaviors. So I don't believe that there's a God necessarily waiting out there to hell and damnation and fire and brimstone and do all nasty things to you. I think there might be a moment of purging, cleansing, and then you come back out of this. It's almost like you've gone to Disneyland and eaten too many sweets. What is mommy going to... Well, you might have to get sick when you get home and throw that all up, but you're not really going to be punished for that. So there is the responsibility is on you. That doesn't mean you can go around harming people, because there is the golden rule of do no harm, to a person or that stuff. That's the rule, So if everybody adheres that rule, fine. If they don't adhere to that rule, then maybe you do have to come up with systems where you can say, hey, if you don't do that here, and I don't like the idea that someone who's a serial this or a serial that, gets to go back and there's no price to be paid. You could have done whatever you liked, But maybe you see in the yin yang dark and light thing is that maybe you end up being in the dark team. Maybe you end up having to play for the dark team because you chose dark.
Yeah.
Versus the light team. And
what's your evidence for that? What you just
dark
said?
and light.
No, as in that everyone goes.
Everyone
eventually.
Well, because I think that God is everything. So God is everything. So that means that all good, bad, and otherwise is God. It's within God. It may not be good. Good is God, I think, but it may not be good God. But at the same time, it's like you've got to have the yin to have the yang. You've got to have the downhills if you want uphills. So
it's just most of your personal experience.
Yeah. So imagine you've gone for a day of paintball shooting or whatever. You're not really killing people. You're not really. You might be the best guy at paintball, but you're not really going to, at the end of the day, get into any trouble for that. Well played, kind of thing. So I sort of try and, particularly because religion pushes this idea of if you do wrong here, then God's going to have a thing with you. I think that if you are God, if you're carrying God, then when you do wrong, you carry that to bed with you tonight. And that wrong is inside you. That the trauma, that the hell that you can start to live in is one that you've created here. And that so my experience was initially with the DMT was I had a 30-second traumatic, frightening experience. And then I was in love. Then I was immersed in this most loving feeling that I can beyond what I can describe. And so that's what I think we come from. Do I want to segregate and say they're bad, they're dark, they're light, they're dark? I don't want to be the one to make any of that kind of judgment.
Well, only God can.
Yeah. But if you're God, then you're the one who's kind of having to make that call in this incarnation. What does it mean for your soul? Are there tokens to win or earn on each journey that we come through here, or your higher self it comes through here in an incarnation? Maybe. But I don't offer this information as a stick to say, hey, if you aren't good, then you are going to be punished for that. I think that, as I say, if I go and hurt a dog, it's going to hurt me. I'm going to feel the pain of that. If I'm going to cheat on my wife or whatever, I'm going to feel the pain of that. So that's really where I think that the hell of it. So we take this life so seriously. One of the messages that kept coming back to me, my wife didn't like this when I went back to South Africa. Said, I kept getting this message that nothing here matters. This experience, it doesn't really matter in the higher realms. It's almost like the kiddies are playing. We are like soul kiddies playing in a little play pond, and one or two might run into each other and bump heads and be a bit aggressive or whatever. But actually, when you leave the play park, you know that it was just like a night's dream. It was a dream. It was one moment of your higher self's experience. Well, my wife, a few years later, she wanted to try the DMT, and she did a few years in 2018. And for her, she was welcomed back by these women. Oh, you're back. She transferred from this life, to...
You said DMT?
Dimethyltryptamine. Oh, right. It's created in your body. It's a natural substance, but you can get it in higher quantities, and it creates this near-death experience because your pineal gland, apparently, this is what I've learned, I can't prove it, but your pineal gland in your brain, a small pine cone shaped gland in your brain, empties when you die, and it's full of this DMT. Yeah. So the death experience is almost like it carries you in through to the death experience, this DMT. And that's what the South American shaman talk about, is that's what you're doing. You're going to go and talk to the spirit.
It's a chemical your body produces when you die.
And it's meant to only fill when you're born. It's almost like
when you're born as well.
Yeah, so it's almost like it carries this spark of God. For me, it's like this little spark of God that's being carried in there. And the Chinese have a method of going to a dark room for 7 days because your lungs create DMT, and in the darkness, I forget now, it's the conversion between one chemical and another doesn't happen, and it becomes this DMT flood, and you can have this enlightening experience. Because the first thing I said, and my dying mother couldn't get me to accept that there was a God in 2011. This is 2015, and the first thing I said is, it's true there's a God. The second thing I said is, every 16-year-old should be offered this as part of their kind of coming of age. Like, you want to know who you are and what you are and what this place is. But the capitalists of the world would never want that to happen. Because once we knew that, we would become agrarian again. We would go back on the land, and we wouldn't work for the dead, for the corporations.
Yep.
We wouldn't stick with war and all of these sorts of things. We wouldn't go along with a lot of stuff. We wouldn't. Once we saw our divinity here, we wouldn't be tax slaves.
Yep.
We'd be like, no, hold on. This is my journey, and you don't get to force me to pay these taxes to things that wars that I never participated in.
Just get funneled into the system whether you like it or not. Yeah.
So we'd realize that this isn't the material system that they try and promote. Darwin was designed to mislead us, to explain how we could be here, rather than no, we were created, and perhaps the first man that emerged here.
Even on his deathbed, he kind of took it back.
You recanted, but and a lot of these people whose theories we now live by, they didn't even publish them in their lifetimes. They were like, no, I'm not so sure about this. But it fits the narrative. So, you get, top billing, Sunday Times bestseller list, for centuries. And that's how they do it. They create this story in order to kind of capture the mind, because the mind is programmable.
Yeah.
And once I have your mind, I can control your body, and then maybe I'm controlling your soul journey, because you will participate in things and be a part of things and take the mark of the beast, as they say in the religious texts. Not realizing what you are.
Yes.
So I think you'll find that information useful. I've got one on the another flyer I carry around is on the electromagnetic. I mean, it does lead to my website, but I think we are electromagnetic beings, and we're all light. And all I've got is a decoder that's decoding you as a man. Yeah. But you're actually a light being carrying source code and a higher consciousness in this incarnation as an avatar. But you go on. There's no death. This is just a one-day stop.
So what's the point of living?
What's the point of living? Well, that is a great question, But for me, I didn't see the point. I was already in my mid-40s before I found this stuff, so I was like, what's the point of living? Now I know that there's a point of living, because it is about mankind perhaps getting towards this Eden ideal eventually. That eventually we come back to some more loving way, And some people say that there's a 24,000-year cycle of the equinox, the precession of the equinox, and through that there are 6,000-year yugas, in which there are high periods, gold periods, light periods, and dark periods. And we may well be in the dark ages now. But the only way that we come through that is if good men do something. And so part of your life journey is to work in your community, in your environment, with your family, whatever, to make the world a better place. You want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself. I think that that's what we're meant to do, is sort of almost like, so you've heard the 7 deadly sins in the Bible, right?
Yeah.
So you're kind of sent like Dorothy on a yellow brick road, and there are all these things along the way, but are you going to find your courage and your fortitude and your strength and so on, despite being set aside? And I think that this story repeats itself in the story of Jesus and the story of Muhammad and all these others. Is that, are you going to hurt, or are you just going to fall in the flock like everybody else? You can do whatever you want with your life, but for me, then it's like, wow, I don't need to watch TV or be fascinated by the latest fashion or the latest superstar or any of those things. It's because you are the superstar. And it's like, how do you maximize that, given where you are at and what you have?
I do think it's a bit risky to say that we are all God. I do get what
Yes, I know. It's hard even for me to say that. It's taken me years to get to a point where I'm comfortable saying that.
Because that kind of means that we can make our
How it what it does.
But I think that like there's a consequence then.
And that could go both ways, right? Maybe there's a consequence that could go both ways. So, you know, but I mean, I would never begin to imagine that I was God in the sense of the macro. It's more like I said with the example of the orange, you know. If I was to take one cell out of the inside of that orange and say, this is me, I am orange, I taste like orange, I look like orange.
Right.
I'm obviously not the whole orange, and I'm more than comfortable with that. And that if I'm the small doll, the seventh doll on the inside, then the limits to my power are very stunted. When I saw my higher self lying beneath me during the DMT, he was just lying there like this, smiling, a blue being. So powerful that this is the knowledge that I took on. So powerful that no weapon, no nothing on earth could ever dent this character. You know, so that's just my higher self, let alone what I believe to be something much greater than that. You know, so it's never to demean God, but it's like, imagine you were to take that little cell out of the orange and cuss on that orange and say, not that important. You are actually not that significant. A guy called Dr. Emoto did this experiment with water, where he talked badly to water.
Yeah,
Right,
you
we
know
saw
this.
rice.
Rice experiment,
love and
very
hate.
popular.
Yeah.
But he can freeze the water and get crystals that are beautiful or crystals that are malformed.
Yeah.
So what if you in your mind, from a young age, are programmed thinking, well, I'm not that important?
But I think there's a part that's bad in us, though. Not all of us, but like I think our flesh is bound to sin. Like, so
that sounds like I learned at Sunday school.
Yeah.
What I learned at Sunday school.
Yeah.
So I think that
No,
just
as in like if we're in Jesus,
yes.
then our flesh is good. But if we're not,
Right.
then
Okay. Well, what if it's a bit like, okay, so go back to the Russian dolls.
sorry,
God-
you need
God
to go,
is-
don't you?
I do. I know.
One more second there. What if all the good and bad that I said has to be inside of God? A small version of that has to be inside of you, good and bad. We have the potential for light and dark, each of us. When you see a policewoman, a black policewoman doing things to another person, you go, wow, they got her to do that? You know, you'd think that she'd be the last person who'd go along with this kind of control system. I'm stereotyping,
Yeah.
of course. But so I think that we have, all of us, got the potential for good and bad. But the master of the ship is you. And the Jesus cross, I think, is, again, it's like you've got a left wing and a right wing. Are you going to be more left wing? Are you going to be too cold or too hot? You know, depending on how you want to balance yourself. And you've got to bring yourself into balance, because you do have the potential for darkness. You do have the potential for light. But you get to choose which route or way you would like to steer your ship, towards the light or towards the dark. And so we all have that. There's a mass murderer possibly in every one of us, depending on what the sine wave of our father, what vibration our mother and father gave us, and the experience of our young life. You could turn anyone into a lover or a fighter. You know, it's just, that's what we each have in us. So I think that the mastery is, the Christhood is about coming to owning that. And so it's not about hiding in a cave and meditating for 25 years like the New Age would have you do. And so now I've balanced that. No, you actually haven't faced your darkness. You've got to be pressed and face your darkness and go through that, and then, wow, I've come into harmony, left, right, up and down, and the center of that is the heart, which is the center of the Christian cross, which I think is what they're trying to point us to, is that the center of everything is you and your heart, and heart is love, of course. So I think that's an expression of love, and yeah, the balance. Look, put it like this: would you say have a child and say, look, you're never going to make any choices yourself. There's sweetie jar there, and I'm going to lock it away. There's this there, and I'm going to lock it away. And so on. Only when I say that, it should be like, let me be the decider of how my journey is walked. Not frightening God or some frightening science that says, oh, now you've got needles and all that sort of stuff. Else, you know, a father or a husband or a grandfather saying, no, you can only do this. It's like, it's my life, my body, my choice. And if it makes me feel bad, then I'm the one who has to deal with the hangover from that. Yeah. And hopefully then I learn not to drink alcohol.
Thanks for sharing, man.
It's been lovely talking to you guys. My name is Dave, and the YouTube is Trinity, Nora. And the YouTube is Trinity for Will. Lovely to meet you both. Have a lovely life. And
Are you local or not?
No, I'm just traveling through.
Just traveling through.
Travel around and try and get to towns when I can.
Cool.
just share some good words, because the Master of You and I got no religion or no organization behind me. It's just me seeing, wow, I've got something I need to go and talk about, to free people from the mental prison, because it is really a mental prison. And we saw that.
We saw a lot
in 2020.
Crazy, right?
It just was like, whoa.
I mean, we were completely outside of it. We were observing. We're like, how the fuck people got on with this?
Outcasts.
We were outcast.
Well done.
Do what you believe.
You've done well, and like my
But
father
there's
said,
a lot.
good luck with your choices, but
No.
quite
No
happy.
one regrets it.
Yeah.
You were on our side. No one regrets it.
That's right. But we have to understand. It's a hard part of the journey is to understand that the meek or the, I don't even want to use that word, but there's people who have swallowed the propaganda better than others.
Yeah.
And so for them, this is real. And so to learn to love for hate me for raising this subject. And so you do need to kind of come to that, maybe, and it has to be narrow. Because if you want to temper steel, you really got to have a hot fire. And you've got to be willing to kind of get close to the furnace. And then in that experience, people are hating on me, I want to hate back on them. And,
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, you can't be like, I told you so. You have to love them.
Yeah.
Well, you have to love them, I think.
And as Jesus did, you live by it, and it's his example that is what we should aspire to. Not because he said it, but you live well, and people will go, wow, I like your vibration, and I like where you're at. Maybe I can. Maybe I can go that way once myself. And how do you do it? And so.
Okay.
Yeah, well.
Thanks.
Cool. Thanks for the chat.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thanks for sharing.
Lovely to meet you. Bye-bye. Yeah, well, that was a nice conversation. It's funny at first, but we can't measure curvature, ma'am.
Well, it'll measure my curvature, love.
Yes, we could easily
I'm getting
do that.
fat.
But the thing is that we can't actually measure any curvature over water or measure that we're spinning. The Earth is spinning. And your senses when you were 5 years old were saying, no, I'm not moving. But the teacher at school was saying, I'm telling you, you're moving. You can't feel it, but you're moving. And they don't tell you how fast, but it's about 1,000 miles an hour, faster than the speed of sound. We're spinning right now against an atmosphere.
So why are you trying to tell me the Earth is flat?
I'm not trying to tell you that.
Oh,
I'm trying to get your senses to remind you that the Earth is not a spinning globe. Living on the underside or the side of a globe is nigh on impossible, but they tell us because of relativity and gravity and these things, that's possible. But we can't prove that. So we have to take it on belief that these things are possible. And up until 60 years ago, everyone had to just take it because the teacher said so. Then they had the NASA programs, the Apollo moon landings. And that was meant to seal the deal and say, look, we can fly off to the moon, we can look back at the Earth. But if that was such an important mission, why didn't they bother taking a photo of the Earth until the sixth and final mission? They didn't take a video footage at all of the Earth spinning, which would be wonderful to see Africa and Asia and turning in front of us and so on. They never bothered to do that. And now Photoshop experts have said that Earthrise photograph that was so famously taken by Armstrong is actually a Photoshop hoax. The image of the Earth being there has been sort of added to the picture. It's not a single photograph.
So what are you trying to tell me? Are you telling me the Earth is still spinning and is not flat?
No, I'm trying to tell you that the Earth is stationary, just like it says in Genesis, and that the sky is
the sky is moving.
Yes,
the sky is moving rather than the Earth is moving.
I mean, it's a bit of a lumpy way of saying it, but the lights are certainly moving, almost like the disco lights in a ballroom. They're moving slowly around once a day. And the sun and the moon and the Mars, Venus and so on, the wandering stars, they move at their own pace. And then the main roof moves together. All the zodiac signs all move together. And they've never moved out of their alignments in thousands of recorded years.
So you were telling me that the Earth is now stationary?
Yes.
And it's just the sky and the solar system that's moving around the Earth?
That's what the Hebrews said.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, there we are. I learn something different every day.
Ma'am, the reason why.
Ma'am,
is-
that's very polite of you.
Well, it's the reason.
Are you
the
South
reason why-
African?
Well, yes.
Yes. Oh, that's why you sound so terribly posh, calling everybody ma'am. It's so polite. Yes.
Well, I need to be polite because I think that God is actually.
Are you believing God?
I think that God is us. I think that we are the expression of whatever God.
God is in all of us.
Yes, and that,
The ones that choose to have Him inside of us.
No, I don't think you can unchoose it. I think it can be burnt out of you. The belief of it, or the want for it, or the acceptance of it, can be programmed out of you by science and religion.
I was of the belief He knows every hair on your head,
Yeah.
and you were born as a Christian. You with me?
Right. Yeah. Well, I think that the Christ story is the story about each of us. Is that the Christ is within each of us. But that light of of God that we carry, the system wants to damp that down and demean whatever God is. So I agree with you. I think that God would know that. God would know.
And the Holy
hairs
Spirit
on
is
your
within
head.
you, isn't it?
Yes. I like that phrase too.
Yes.
Some people get a little bit funny about that phrase, but I think that the Spirit, we carry the Spirit of God, and that Spirit is being mangled by this experience to get us to go to war with ourselves. Because if God is in everyone, he's Russian, he's Ukrainian, he's Angolan.
There you are, you say.
You know.
I might be right. He knows every hair on your head, and he knew you from the very beginning.
Yes.
He chose, and isn't he? He chose you from the very beginning.
Yeah.
That's what Scripture says.
Well, yeah, and it seems that
So
the
he
story
must
is
have
written.
he must have chosen you, even the
Yes.
decent ones.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
He chose you to become decent.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, there's my little flyer, and that's the Hebrew cosmology. How the Hebrews depict the earth, and the Mayans and the Egyptians same. That we live inside, and firmament is a word that's used in the Bible. We believe that there's a firmament and a roof above our head. As the Bible said, God separated the waters from the waters. In order to separate waters from waters, you need a bubble, you need a container. You can't just do it with gas. So we believe that we live inside of a close system. There might be more continents that have been hidden from us, but there's certainly what we know is that our sea level is the same across the
I've
earth.
never approved of going to the moon. I've never approved of anything like that. I'm a dyed-in-the-wood Luddite. I don't like change. I like things as they are.
Well, if they're pretending to go through the roof, it's almost like a sex ritual that they're doing. And I know for sure they never went to the moon. Do you know that they never put a man in a spacesuit into a vacuum chamber? You know, if you were testing a suit to go into the vacuum of space, which is apparently very violent, you'd have to test it on Earth in a vacuum chamber. They never did that.
I don't ever watch anything to do with it because I've always been against it. I just think anything interfering with the outer space is going to water the whole of the cosmos, and I think that's going to cause all the earthquakes and everything else that's happening.
Right.
And why waste all that money on doing that for nothing? You with me?
Well, they're using the money for a whole
But they
lot of covert
they
operations.
have learnt a few things by going into space, though, haven't they? How to help with operations and things like that, or whatever.
I think that, I mean, obviously they've had to get certain advanced technologies together as part of their program, but I don't think that they've done as much as we'd like to think. Do you know that they get almost $100 million per day?
I can believe it.
$100 million.
And I don't understand why they're continuing doing it when we're in crisis with Ukraine. Why aren't they spending that help in Ukraine? I don't understand.
Well, never-ending series of hobgoblins. That's what government is for, according to Mencken and many other philosophers. But government's purpose is to create reasons for them to be there, and they do that through fear. They create a boogeyman over here, so that we have a reason to go to war. And that war will be funded by the same bankers who will fund the other side.
Tony Blair I see as the Antichrist. I've got very fixed opinions, I'm sorry.
Well,
I'm very
I
bigoted.
No, I agree.
I was brought up in knowing the Bible, yes, and being a Christian,
Yeah.
I don't attend church because I don't approve of the Archbishop of Canterbury or any of them.
Yeah,
But,
and they're messing with all of that all the time.
He's an
as
idiot.
well.
He's an absolute
what's his
idiot.
name? Justin. Justin.
Justin Welby.
That's it.
He's an idiot.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a big fan of these organized religions anymore. Although I take a lot of succor from the Bible, I think that the aegis of trying to control the story of man or God's creation has gone back for thousands of years, and they've used religion and they've mistreated, say, Jesus' message. They have used science now to try and minimize us. I used to believe in evolution, coming from monkeys. That's not God's creation. and God created monkey.
So did I.
But-
I was gullible.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was a goody.
yeah.
I was a goody.
Yeah.
Yes,
But
I
that's the
believe. I
mainstream.
believed what I was taught.
That's the mainstream.
You've got other members.
Well, I'll give you a flyer. Did I give you my flyer?
You've given you
I
that.
have, haven't I?
You give me that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. You've
Lovely
got a
to-
very earnest face. You've got beautiful blue eyes.
Well,
and
thank
so
you.
I'm old enough to be a mother and probably more.
That's very kind of you to
You got
say,
beautiful
no?
blue eyes.
Thank you.
Keep going. Keep fighting.
Thank you.
Believe in.
Yeah, for God.
Yeah?
Yeah, for us, for mankind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
I believe in him.
Oh, God.
It's the only thing that keeps me going.
Awesome.
Because
You
my
keep
life
that.
is hell.
Hold
Yes.
on. Yeah, well, you
I've
try and work out
got
of that.
my husband had COVID badly. He's got 2 tears in his eardrums.
Oh.
He's got to have a cochlear implant.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Life is hell. Yes. Very difficult.
Oh, I wish
So
you the
I've
best.
only got faith to keep me
Yeah,
going.
you keep that face strong, man.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Much love. Oh, that was nice. I've got some bags here. I'd like to say I brought them, but that would be a lot. I need to. Yeah, that was a nice conversation, actually. Let me just pop this down a second. I just need to tie this down. Yeah, that was a lovely conversation. That was. Obviously, there's so much there